Hello, everyone. My name is Stanley St. Rose, and today we're going to be talking about the Listerdale Mystery, written by Agatha Christie. Now, before I go into summary analysis of this work, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and/or comment so that the channel can continue to grow. This work is quite fascinating. I think it says a lot about wealth and power, and the it compares how the rich view the world and how the poor view the world. Now, this is a mystery. This is an Agatha Christie work. Um, Agatha Christie is just a master at writing a good mystery work. It's just she's one of my favorite authors. You know, there's no she's just a master at writing literature. I don't know the words to explain what Agatha Christie is. She always puts me at the edge of my seat because you don't know what's going to happen next. So really good work. When I talk about the analysis, when we go into the analysis for this short story by Agatha Christie, I'll give you guys some more on my perspective on the work and how it relates to our lives in the 21st century. So let's go into the summary and just talk about what happens within this short work. So the Listerdale mystery pretty much begins with us being introduced to Mrs. St. Vincent. And Mrs. St. Vincent, her husband is dead. She has money, but she doesn't have as much money as she once had. She's coming from old money. She's coming from, families of the past that had generational wealth. We're told that her husband was never good with money, so his investments pretty much bankrupted the family. Now, they're not poor by any sense of the word, but when you compare to what they have, the money that they have when we meet them to what they had before we meet them within this work, it's not the same thing. It's like it's a huge drop. So we know that Mrs. Saint Vincent's her husband is dead. We know that they're not in a good place, or at least they think that they're not in a good place. And so we kind of like we're introduced to Mrs. Saint Vincent when she's like kind of like counting her money and doing some math on her finances. Like when you're stressed about how much income you have and if it's enough to pay for your luxuries and your necessities and all that jazz. So she's doing that math, and it's frustrating her and making her upset each time that she does them. And then we get introduced to Barbara, and then later we get introduced to her daughter Barbara, and then later we get introduced to her son Rupert. Rupert. His name is I keep wanting to call him Rupert. But his name is Rupert, if I'm pronouncing it right. So that's the family. Those are the kids, and pretty much they're living in a place where they hate. It's not as rich and luxurious as their family home that is in the hands of other people. And pretty much it's kind of like a woe is me kind of thing when we're introduced to them. I mean, Rupert is working. He has a job that has a lot of potential, and there's a lot of room to grow within the company that he's working in. So he has an income coming in. The mother, Mrs. Saint Vincent, she has an income coming in. Barbara, she is at of working age. She can work. She even offers her mother to go and get a job so that all three of them could have an income and just live. But the mother finds this just a horrible idea, because these people are coming from old money. Pretty much we're basically we're presented the idea that these people have never worked in their lives. It's now that they have to go to work and become of you know earning their money by working. That's something that's really new to them. Their family for generations they've lived off of investments and making their money work for them. And honestly, that's how the rich maintain their wealth. That's how the rich stay rich. You don't work for money. You you invest in businesses, you invest in things that are starting up, you invest in real estate, you invest in things like that, so that you don't get up in the morning, your money gets up in the morning. So that's how this family has lived for generations, and now they have to go back into the job market. So the mother is not happy with her life. She's not happy with her status. Barbara, she doesn't want Barbara to get a job because that's just not proper. Barbara's role in the family is to stay beautiful, because she's a beautiful girl, we're told, is to stay beautiful and wait for the right guy to come along. So that's what we're introduced to. The story goes on, and pretty much we see Mrs. St. Vincent. She starts looking for a new place to stay because she feels like she can't pay for the place that they are now, which they already feel like is they feel like it's horrible, and it's not a place that they want to stay because it's not wealthy or amazing enough. So she sees on the newspaper, she sees this posting about this mansion that is being rented out, and it's very cheap. She meets with an agent. The agent says, "Yeah, you have to pay the rent. It's really cheap. There's no tricks here." She goes and see it. It's a mansion. There's a butler by the name of Quentin, and Quentin is well mannered. He comes with the mansion basically. Butlers, mansions, and butlers are one thing basically in literature and in movies and sitcoms. And Quentin is well mannered. He knows what to do. Mrs. St. Vincent pretty much feels like she has a connection with Quentin, to the point where she feels like, Quentin understands her, uh, you know, to the point where she doesn't even have to talk to him, right? She kind of like indicates that she won't be able to afford the mansion because she could probably afford the rent, but she knows that it's going to take a staff to run and upkeep the mansion. And, because if you're going to live in a mansion in England, because again, the setting of this work is England. If you're gonna live in England in a mansion, and coming from Mrs. Saint Vincent's background, you're gonna have to throw parties, balls, and things like that, and so you need a staff to maintain all of that. So she knows that she can't afford it. So she said she's not gonna take the mansion. She goes back home, and we're told that the next day she gets a letter saying that they'll the landlord or the owner is going to pay for the servants, keep the servants working. All she has to pay is the rent, and she's like, she's happy, she's celebrating. Barbara's happy. So Mrs. St. Vincent and Barbara, they're all happy. The only person that's not happy though is Rupert. 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 No, not Rupert. Rupert. Yes, Rupert is not happy. He keeps saying that this is very fishy, right? This is a very fishy deal. Rupert is like, this is fishy. I don't know about this. I mean, people giving free mansions, people giving free rent, free staff, and just luxurious deals. This is very fishy. I don't know about this. And that's how Rupert feels about it. His mother's like, man, this kid is a bummer. He's not really understanding how life works, and so pretty much his ideas are batted away, and they move to the mansion. The staff is there. Mrs. St. Vincent is having the time of her life. She has a really nice house again. Her daughter's living it up. Rupert is working. Everything is going well. We even learned that Barbara is seeing this guy by the name of Jim. Now, the thing with Barbara and Jim is that when they were at the old place, Barbara didn't want Jim to come and see her because he would probably run away because she's not as rich anymore. And the mother had the same. She was with Barbara with that same idea, right? But now, since they're in a mansion again, Jim and Barbara, they start dating, and then they get engaged. So Barbara fits that caricature of the woman in the 20th century or a woman in the 19th century. You're if you're pretty, you're beautiful, you're attractive, you're supposed to wait for a man to come and grab you, and you have that house with the white picket fence, and well, not that specific example. That's more of an American example. But what I'm trying to say is that in England at that time, beautiful women of high status, you were supposed to keep yourself beautiful and get married and settle down. That was your role in society. So Barbara fulfills that role, and Mrs. St. Vincent life is going great. Rupert is just working, and pretty much everybody forgets about the whole low cost mansion and the life for a while because months go by. They're enjoying their mansion life. But weird things keep happening. For instance, you're getting flowers that's coming to the mansion. You're getting fancy foods that's coming to the mansion, and the upkeep is serious. And Mrs. Saint Vincent, she's not paying for this. It's all free, and what we're being told is that the owner is paying for all of this, and he's okay with all of this. He's very giving, right? And now just kind of like rakes up this idea back into Rupert's mind of this is very fishy. This is very fishy. And he has his suspicions. He kind of becomes this like Sherlock Holmes, this Sherlock Holmes of this short story where he's like trying to find out if this mansion has secret rooms or if there's like a body hidden underneath the floorboards, because now he's saying that um, the owner of the home, which is Lord, uh, hold on 1 minute, let me see. I gotta pronounce it. Listerdale. Listerdale. Okay, yeah. That's Listerdale. That's an interesting name. So Lord Listerdale, is the owner of the mansion, right? And basically, no one's seen him for over a year. No one's seen him for over a year. And legally, his cousin by name of Colonel Carfax, I mean, I'm not even going to say anything about the name. His name is Colonel Carfax. Colonel Carfax is legally responsible for his entire estate. And Lord Listerdale has a very extremely large estate, and pretty much Colonel Carfax is renting them out to a bunch of formerly rich people that are not so rich anymore. Um, yeah, he's just renting them out to them, and they're getting all these benefits of foods and flowers and things like that. So we kind of get this idea that this is happening in multiple different locations, low rents for really nice houses. Because Lord Listerdale is in East Africa for some reason. He's been gone over a year. No one's seen him. And everything feels fishy. Everything looks fishy, according to Rupert. He even starts to make up this idea or believe in this idea that Colonel Carfax and Quentin, the butler, they made a plan. They made an evil plan. They made an evil plan to kill Lord Listerdale, take his property, and so on and so forth, right? Um, so he starts investigating again. He becomes this Hercule Poirot, and he starts investigating. There's several parts throughout the short story where he loses interest and gains back interest and all that jazz. His ideas get into his mother's mind, and the mother starts to ask Quentin some questions. She even gets underneath Quentin's skin. Time goes on. Barbara and Jim, they just become, the married couple. Mrs. Saint Vincent and Rupert, now they start really looking into the matter of did something happen to Lord Listerdale? And honestly, they don't know Lord Listerdale at all. Mrs. Saint Vincent, she heard about him in rumors, but she doesn't know him personally. And the kids, Barbara and Rupert, they don't know Lord um, Listerdale personally. So the mother and Rupert, they just start poking around trying to figure out what's really going on, because it's kind of hard to believe into it. It's kind of ominous. Why would a rich man rent out a mansion for cheap, feed people, give flowers and all that kind of jazz without asking for something, or without asking for higher payment? It doesn't make sense. So Yeah, Rupert goes out and he finds the real Quentin because apparently the Quentin at the mansion is fake. And at that time, I'm like, oh my God, the Quentin at the mansion is a murderer. He's gonna kill Mrs. Saint Vincent, and that's not the case. That's not that at all. So you're kind of like the story builds you up for an ominous ending, but it's not that at all. Uh, Rupert brings back the real Quentin. The real Quentin confronts the fake Quentin, and it's revealed that the fake Quentin is actually Lord Listerdale, and then it's revealed that Lord Listerdale arranged with his cousin Colonel Carfax, and Quentin to get lost and make this idea that he's lost in East Africa, or he's in East Africa, living like the rich live, whatever, and he's over there. So no one knows that he's like being so nice and giving a bunch of formerly rich people who are now not so rich anymore a lot of nice homes and nice benefits. So this is all secret, and he did all of this like Lord Listerdale did all of this because he felt that he was selfish all of his life and not sharing his wealth with people, which to me really throws me off because for some reason, if you wanted to help the less fortunate or the people and not being selfish, help the poor. I mean, the people he's helping, they're not unfortunate or poor. They're just slightly or less rich than they were. I mean, Rupert is working, the mother has an income, and Barbara can work, but apparently that's poverty to the ultra rich because they're not, relying on old money and investments anymore. Now they have to work a real job. So he's being less selfish to the rich, which is I don't know what that means. That's beyond me. That's beyond me. Um, so this is all revealed to him, and then like Mrs. Saint Vincent, she's like, "Oh, I don't want charity. I know okay, you're doing something nice. You want to be less selfish, but I don't want charity. I don't want to stay here if this is charity." And he's like, "No, no, I don't want charity. I'm not giving you charity. I do want something for you, and that's your hand in marriage." And out of nowhere, apparently, it's explained to us that Quentin, because he was serving Mrs. Saint Vincent for for a couple of months, he falls in love with her. They fall in love, and Mrs. Fairfax. I don't. Here's the thing: she saw Quentin as a butler all this time. She was not thinking about him romantically. She probably saw him as the help. But since now, he has the money, he has the house, he has everything that she wants in life. She's like, let's get, she's like, her hands fall into his hands and they're going to get married. Jim and Barbara are going to get married, and Rupert, he has a job and life is going to be perfectly fine since now they're all rich again and wonderful life. Wonderful life. Um, yeah, so that's what happens. That's how the short story ends, which is for me a little bit disappointing because the build up to this ending was not what I expected. The build up to this ending was very ominous and very scary because I thought like something was gonna come out of the basement and eat them because cheap rent, free food, free flowers, big massive house. No one knows where it's coming from. I mean, it sounded like something demonic, or some supernatural thing is gonna sacrifice them. I mean, I know my mind is all over the place. I mean, that's a massive stretch, but it felt very ominous, so I assumed the worst. But what really was going on was not that at all. I mean, even Rupert was with me because he thought that Colonel Carfax killed Lord Listerdale and buried him under the floorboards or in a secret compartment in the mansion, but that simply wasn't the case. So it's a happy ending. Quentin goes back because Quentin, the true Quentin, was retired. The true Butler was retired. He actually did work for Listerdale. He actually worked for him. He retired. I mean, assuming he go. I'm assuming that he goes back to his life. Mrs. Saint Vincent and Lord Listerdale, they get married. Barbara and Jim, they were engaged, so of course they'll get married. It's not a problem. They'll get married, and Rupert will probably keep being a horrible detective because his hypothesis of Lord Listerdale being dead and underneath the floorboards just was off and wrong, and he was a horrible detective because at some points of the short story he gets bored and he didn't care about it anymore, and he was like, I want to be young and do other things, and then he came back to it several times. So he's a horrible detective. Let's go into the analysis and the deeper meaning here. So first thing I'll say is that this really this short story really makes me think about how the rich and the poor see the world differently. So to the rich, you know, falling from old money and investments to working jobs, that's like poverty for them. To the ultra rich, that's what I'm saying here in this short story. And I mean, I guess you can say that the same thing about society too. To someone who is in the working class, having a job is amazing. That's all that you want. You just want an ability to earn an income. And then falling to poverty would be poverty or living on the streets. That's the most horrible aspect, or the bottom of the barrel, living on the streets. So for them, for a person who is of working class and falls to poverty, if they can find an apartment and have some type of income to pay for necessities, it'll be a tough life, but they'll be able to survive and find little mini pleasures in life. But for them, Mrs. Saint Vincent, her income, Rupert was working, Barbara could have worked. That life was just dreadful for them because I guess it wasn't fancy enough, which is very laughable. So again, I mean, it really shows you the difference between the ultra rich and people of working class, because the way that they see the world and its components are very different. The other thing is, I'm really with Lord Listerdale. He had like a Jesus Christ epiphany. Like he's kind of like born again, and he's gonna help the poor and be good, and give with his right hand and don't let his left hand know type of vibe going on. But it really doesn't make sense because he's not helping out the poor or being less um, selfish. He's helping out the people who are ultra rich and fell down a little bit. He's helping them get back up into old money. Um, so I don't know. And the thing's like he's also doing it for his own benefits because he likes the old lifestyle. That's the whole reason why he marries, or he gets engaged with Mrs. Saint Vincent, because she's a precious trophy of the past. She is this princess in a castle, and he is her knight in shining armor, and they're gonna, end their lives together in the past, because they're gonna live in this mansion, live the old money life, and keep that vibe of the man has his place, the woman has the woman has her place, and the old um, idea of never working, making good investments, living on old money. They're relics of the past. They're stuck in the past, and they love the past because it's comfortable and wonderful for them. Barbara and Jim. I mean, Barbara, from my perspective, she's just a caricature. I mean, every novel or play of the 21st century and even the 19th century, it's always a young girl who's pretty. She finds a suitor who has high potential, and they get married, and that's the end of it. I mean, that was really predictable. That's something that you see in a lot of plays where the beautiful girl gets married, and she's happy and she's rich. Wow, you know. Like I'm not saying Agatha Christie's this work by Agatha Christie's bad. I love Agatha Christie's work. She's one of my favorite authors. It's just these people are stuck in the past, and nothing's really. I mean, this work was published in the 20th century, and I mean that's the 20th century. That was we're in the 21st century. That's not that far ago. I don't think, well, at least from my perspective, I don't think that's that long ago. So to me, they're stuck in the past, and they're caricatures. Rupert is a horrible detective. I would not recommend him if you need some detectivating. I don't know. I'm tired, guys. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. But he's a horrible detective. That's what I'm trying to get across. He got bored, he got lazy, he gave up, and then he gained back interest. And his assumption of Lord Listerdale being underneath the floorboards or in a secret compartment, being killed by his cousin Colonel Carfax and Quentin, it was just way off. So horrible, horrible detective, nothing good. Overall, this is a great short story. I think, well, it's a good short story, a good read. I don't completely like it because the ending, the build up, the ominous build up, did not bring me to the destination that I thought we're going to. And the ending was very unpredictable. A marriage proposal, Lord Listington, you know, oh my God, it's just the ending. It's just not. I don't know. I don't like the ending. I don't like the marriage. Lord Listerdale is just not. He didn't do. It just threw me off. It's just the rich and their world and their perspective. I don't like the ending. Uh, but overall, I mean, it does allow you to think about society and the past and some differences between the rich and the poor, and also it, it felt this whole story. I guess for one thing, it really didn't let you know what the ending was going to be, and I guess that's one of the major things in a mystery. So in terms of being a mystery, this is a great mystery because what I thought was going to happen at the end did not happen at all. Not at all. So the biggest thing I guess you can take is that some people, I guess for like kind of like a life uh, um, message or something to take for yourself, is that some people, such as Mrs. Saint Vincent and Lord Listerdale, they're just stuck in the past. They're relics of the past. Nothing is going to make them change. They love the old ways, and we know this for a fact, especially how Mrs. Saint Vincent reacted and interacted with Quentin, or I guess Lord Listerdale, when she thought he was a butler, and how they both kind of like played this acting role of the being in the past and being in that ancient mindset and in that ancient world. And also, I also think that Lord Listerdale might be a little bit crazy with his wealth and power and money, because when you think about it, when you know that Quentin was, Lord Listerdale was playing Quentin for like 4 or 5 months, 3, 4 months. He was living in his own house, serving this woman food, pretending to be someone else, showing this woman, Mrs. Saint Vincent, his own house and the different parts of it. I'm pretty sure the servants knew that it was actually him. So he was living in his own house, playing his own games, putting on a play for no audience. Well, I guess we are the audience, um, just because he wanted to be less selfish. So, is that the only way to be less selfish? Putting on an elaborate play of helping out the people who are not as rich as they once was and were, or playing butler in your own mansion? That seems so complicated. Why couldn't he just help build jobs for the less fortunate and help them get into work so they can help themselves? I don't know. I that's So many questions. But yeah, guys, that's all I had to say about this work. That's my perspective. You know, those are my thoughts and perspectives on this work. It's a good read. I think you guys would enjoy it if you decide to read it. But yeah, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.